Beloved Australian soccer captain Sam Kerr, well, beloved to some, the media seem to love her, social media, not so much, has done something a little bit naughty. She uttered some not-so-nice words to a police officer in London early last year. First of all, no matter what side of politics you're on, whether you're woke or anti-woke, I don't care. But I think nobody should be cancelled or lose their careers over something they say. We're all human, we all make mistakes, we sometimes say stupid things, so I'm not here campaigning for Sam Kerr to lose her job. However, she did say something that other sports stars have lost their jobs over. What did she say? Well, after a big night out, she reportedly threw up in a taxi and got into an altercation with the driver over the taxi fare, presumably over the cleaning fee. So the police were called, and she allegedly called the police officer a stupid white bastard. However, it's been reported that Kerr herself said that she didn't say that at all. She said, stupid white cop. Either way, the intent is the same. She called the police officer stupid as well as white, and consequently was charged with racially aggravated harassment, which she could potentially go to jail for. This, of course, resulted in the progressive left, or the woke left, or whatever you want to call them, their minds collectively imploded. You see, the progressive left are all about criminalising language when it suits them. They're obsessed with historical oppression and identity politics. The only things that matter to them now are race, gender, and sexuality. They no longer focus on the real problems facing poor people, but instead turn their gaze to imagined microaggressions against overprivileged university graduates. And because Sam Kerr is a person of colour, I hate that term by the way, it sounds rather racist, don't you think? She's of Indian descent, noting she's also of Caucasian descent, but that doesn't seem to count. She's a lesbian, she has a Caucasian fiancée, and of course she's a woman, whatever that means. Nobody seems to be able to define it anymore. The point is, she ticks all the woke left's boxes, so to speak. So when they heard she was charged with racism, as I said, their collective minds imploded. Imagine if Donald Trump, after a big night out in London, got into a taxi, vomited all over the car, argued with the taxi driver over the fare, and then when the police were called, he called the officer a stupid black bastard. Imagine the outrage. They would want his head. They wouldn't relent. They would call for him to be jailed. Okay, maybe that's not a fair comparison. What if instead it was Matthew Ryan? Who's Matthew Ryan, I hear you ask? He's the Australian men's soccer captain. Didn't you know that? Maybe you did if you follow soccer, but I had no idea. It's funny, the media in Australia play up the idea that women's sport is treated unfairly. It doesn't get as much coverage. The players are underpaid. Here's an article from the ABC released just yesterday. As we mark International Women's Day, let's do better in covering women's sport. But yet, we all seem to have heard about Sam Kerr, even before all the racism allegations, but I couldn't have told you who the men's captain was without Googling it. The narrative of the progressive left is that women are hard done by in Australia, and you're not allowed to question it. So when Sam Kerr was charged with racism, how did the woke left react? Well, instead of calling out the racism for what it is, they instead tried to defend her. Here's just a few headlines from our beloved ABC. Football Australia reaffirms support for Sam Kerr amid racially aggravated harassment allegations. Sam Kerr has English club's full support as criminal charge looms over Star. Football Australia reaffirms support for Sam Kerr. And just one from The Guardian. Accusing people like Sam Kerr of anti-white racism reveals a lack of understanding. The point is, the progressive left have to support her. She's basically a victim in all of this, right? But to be fair, it is a bit hard for them to rationally support her racist comments in this instance, so what else can they do? Well, they can simply change the definition of racism. For example, The Conversation are reporting, Sam Kerr's alleged comments may have had a racial element, but they were not racist, in quotes. Victoria University's racism expert, Associate Professor Mario Puca, I'll just call him Mario, stated, "Racism reflects and manifests as systemic exclusion and marginalisation based on historically rooted power imbalances and racial hierarchies that put white people at the top. To put it very simply, the scholarly, if not the legal, definition is that racism equals power plus prejudice. Being called a stupid bastard might hurt someone's feelings, but while I'm in no position to judge whether Sam Kerr's alleged actions have caused distress to the officer, as the law would require, labelling the incident as racist is clearly not in line with what racism means. Claims of anti-white or reverse racism are based on a shallow, misguided and inaccurate understanding of what racism really constitutes." So basically, in the good professor's reckoning, you can't be racist towards a white person because they are at the top of the hierarchy, which I think is just absurd. What about the poor Caucasian man who lives at the local trailer park? Is he higher on the social hierarchy than, say, Barack Obama, who lives in his mansion on the coast because the trailer park guy just happens to be white? What a load of nonsense. These people are living in the past if they think this hierarchy still holds true. Roger Cook, the Labor Premier of Kerr's home state of Western Australia, said, "I don't think it is racist. Sam is a great West Australian. She's done so much for Western Australian sport. She's done so much for women and girls' sports. And we stand by and support Sam." Chris Minns, Premier of New South Wales, when asked if he believed it would be racist if someone called him a stupid white bastard, he simply replied, "No." These political leaders better tread carefully with their language and be careful what they endorse, because if it's found Sam Kerr did say what she said and she gets off, and these premiers have already gone around telling people it's not racist to call Caucasians stupid white people, then they've essentially allowed white people to become targets of racial abuse, potentially putting themselves in the firing line. It's a sorry state of affairs. Obviously, laws should be colourblind and should be applied equally. If Sam Kerr gets away with this, it sets an incredibly stupid and dangerous precedent. Of course, politicians like Senator Lydia Thorpe, who profit, as in benefit, from the racism industry, tweeted, "Replace all statues of Captain Cook with statues of Sam Kerr, our one true captain," basically calling her a hero for using racist language towards a police officer. Former Australian soccer captain Craig Foster has called on Football Australia to strip Sam Kerr of her captaincy, if it is confirmed that she did indeed use racist language towards the police officer, to show how seriously the sport takes racism. Look, I think this is the natural result of criminalising language. We get stupid situations like this. It seems like the world can't agree what racism is. Crimes like murder are obvious. You either kill somebody or you don't. Sure, we could argue over whether it's manslaughter or whatever, but somebody is dead. Burglary and theft are obvious. Something has been stolen. There's no debate. But criminalising language, as we've seen with this racism debate, is a very dangerous path. It's open to abuse. Somebody says something and then somebody claims they felt offended. How can we disprove it? Maybe we should just do away with this whole racism thing. Even if the world decides that what Sam Kerr said wasn't racist, it was still wrong. She is a role model. Many girls and boys look up to her. At the very least, she needs to apologise. She won't, because that would be an admission of guilt. But in a perfect world, she might say, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said what I said. I was drunk, but that's no excuse. We should be nice to one another no matter what our cultural backgrounds. Racism is racism, and I was wrong to say what I said. Please forgive me." Call it double standards, call it selective outrage, call it hypocrisy, but one thing that is crystal clear, racism is only called out by the progressive left when they are the victim.